I asked our ECS, he knew right away. He says, well, and he tried to bring it down to my level. Blended learning is where you're having, he said, it can be some brick and mortar, some not brick and mortar. Turns out he had one time had worked at virtual high school, so he was well versed in it. I asked another teacher in my building who was completely secondary trained, what's blended learning? He said that he thought it was a hot button phrase in education that all teachers need to switch what they're doing to get on the latest bandwagon. He really didn't have an idea what blended learning was. And then he says, well, he wasn't really sure. He thought it's something we do every day. I don't really know, but if I take all that I do know and I apply it to other classroom lessons, that's probably blended learning. He said that it possibly has something to do with low learners in the same classroom and how they have to be at an accelerated rate of learning, or they have to be with the accelerated learners. He thought that was blending the ability levels. Another teacher who's also secondary trained, works in science. She thought blended learning was blending all the different levels of learning in one classroom, cross-curricular. She gave an example of if you did air pollution, you would not only look at the science aspects, but you'd also look at the social studies aspects, incorporate some reading, some writing, some math, and have a child look at it from all those different parts. That would be blended learning. She thought it was applying their background knowledge and looking for misconceptions and try and fix it. Excuse me, the next one that I talked to, she comes from an elementary background, and I was really intrigued. She didn't have an idea what blended learning was either, but she said it sounded like something she did in elementary school, and I asked her more, what does that mean? Does it look a certain way? What does the classroom look like? What she basically describes as rotation. She talked about how some of the students were with her in a small group, some of the students were working on seat work, some of the students were working on different tasks throughout the building, throughout the room. She had 4 different stations set up in her room. She was one of the stations. So without really knowing the verbiage for it, she was doing blended learning, was able to describe it. She said it wasn't as easy to do in middle school as it was in elementary school because she had them for longer periods of time, and she felt that she was able to do more with it in elementary. She didn't think our building, our programs right now were set up to do what she called rotations, which I'm learning is part of the blended, one of the 4 models of blended learning that you could be doing. But I was really surprised that as a middle school teacher with an elementary background, she came from 6 years in elementary, she was well versed in what the process was, didn't know the language